Hey guys, Night Raid Gaming here with a review for Marvel Midnight Suns, the newest RPG game out from BioWare's. Wait, did that say Firaxis Games? Yes, the people who made XCOM have made the most BioWare RPG since Mass Effect Andromeda, but unlike that game, this is actually really good instead of total crap. Okay, well, I guess I should start by saying that yes, I do like this game, but I think one of the big caveats is you really have to like the BioWare style of RPG. So if you played Dragon Age and Mass Effect and you didn't like those games, in terms of how they make you socialize with the characters, you are not going to like this game. 50% of this game is talking to the other superheroes, becoming friends with them, hanging out with them, learning their story, helping them with problems. There's like a friendship meter, is literally a friendship meter that's building up, and you're giving them presents. And it's really almost like a Sims kind of thing. It does follow the BioWare style of games. I'll say like the good ones, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. Now, Dragon Age 2, I think, went too far with this. Or actually, no, even Inquisition got even worse, where it was really about romancing the characters. I think that became way too much the focus of the game. It's like, no, you're not just friends with these people. You're trying to fall in love with them and seduce them. And that got really kind of stupid. This game doesn't really have that, as far as I can say. I haven't seen any way to romance anyone. They just kind of keep it at friends, which is fine. This is a Disney property. It's superheroes. I don't even really want that in this game anyway. And it works. But you do have to kind of be into it. You do have to talk to the characters and have a dialogue with them and get into their story. Now, there are gameplay rewards for doing this. You might unlock new cards to use for the combat. You might get new equipment or new whatever. But it is 50% of the game. So if you're not, like, if you're just going to try and really skip past all the storyline and I don't care, I'm just going to skip past all of it, you're going to skip like half the game. And the combat is not good enough to totally carry the whole thing. The combat is good. It is a little repetitive. I'm going to use the word a little repetitive. But the game does do a good job of introducing new enemies, slowly kind of drips feeds you new enemies with new attacks. Bosses come out. They also have special, kind of moves and challenges that make them different. And the game is drip feeding you some new mechanics to keep you interested. You're also getting new characters and new cards for them, which is letting you do different things. And every character does play really different. Iron Man plays very different from Doctor Strange, who plays different from Spidey, different from Ghost Rider. And when you mix these characters in different combinations as you're playing the game, you'll see like new combos kind of build out, and you realize like, oh, hey, it's really nice to have Iron Man with Captain America. That works really well. Or hey, it turns out Ghost Rider and maybe the Hunter, the main character, they don't really work as well as I thought because there's just too much card discarding with their mechanics and things like that. So there's plenty of opportunity, I think, in the gameplay. There's plenty of meat on that bone. But you do need to get into the story. It is a big part of it. Talking about the story itself, it's nothing amazing. It's okay. It does the job. At least it makes sense. Unlike some of Dragon Age Inquisition, I'm thinking, and even Mass Effect 3, those games literally didn't make any sense, and I had no clue what was going on for most of those games. Especially Dragon Age Inquisition. The plot points of that game are just, I still don't know what happened. This is much more straightforward. It's much more of a superhero kind of adventure. You create a new character called Hunter. You're kind of exploring their origin. You're being introduced to the other superheroes, and, hijinks ensue, basically. But it's perfectly fine. Now, the story is in the modern Marvel kind of interpretation. So I will say it falls in line with like the good Marvel movies, or the Marvel movies in general, or the Marvel TV shows. So if you absolutely hate the movies or you absolutely despise the TV shows, you can't stand any of that stuff, you're not going to like this story because it's very much in that portrayal and the characters act very much like the movies and TV shows. But if you do like it, then great, because this is going to match kind of what you're expecting with that. So if you just only saw like one movie or whatever and you only know one or two characters, they're going to match your expectations of what you're expecting. The roster is not the biggest roster in the world as far as Marvel video games go. Part of that is just because every character has so much storyline, so much lore, so much dialogue, so much talking, just hours of talking, that they probably couldn't make the roster too big. But when you consider that kind of depth that every character has, I think they did a really admirable job adding quite a bit of characters. There's an interesting mix here. There are characters for the grumpy old people like me. You get Iron Man, Blade, Spidey, Doctor Strange. I kind of lean more towards those kinds of characters. But you have some of the new weirdo characters who honestly I don't really know. The new Ghost Rider. I didn't know there was a new Ghost Rider, but Robbie, he's like the current holder of the Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Nico, who is one of the Runaways, I believe, one of the Runaway characters, she's in this. Don't know her too well, but she's in it. And Captain Marvel, who's been very prominent lately in the Marvel Universe, she's in this. I will give Firaxis credit. This is the least obnoxious Captain Marvel I've ever seen. I actually kind of hate Captain Marvel because it's a stupid character, and on top of that, her personality is just dreadful. Part of that was how she was portrayed in the movies, but even in the comics, she's pretty obnoxious. I will say this is the best version of modern day Captain Marvel that I've seen. At least she's pleasant. Character doesn't make a lot of sense, still kind of goofy, doesn't work for me, but at least she's friendly and nice and not obnoxious. And even playing her cards, like the way she plays in the game, is pretty fun. She's pretty good. So they made Captain Marvel work as well as a character I hate could be. I don't completely hate her. I will play with that character, which is saying a lot because I do generally despise that character. Now, I guess somewhat of the elephant in the room is, yes, Disney owns Marvel. And we know Disney is very heavy-handed with how they like to do things these days, with minority representation and all that kind of stuff. It's not bad in this game. There is I guess you would call a gay relationship in the main storyline that's vaguely hinted at. They just vaguely hint at it. They don't beat you over the head with it. It's fine. It's not a big deal. So I wouldn't call it obnoxious. So if you're annoyed with that kind of material or you just kind of hate how they kind of beat you over the head with it lately, that's not really present in this game, so it's not a problem. And there is a very diverse group of characters, a lot of female characters. I think it's the most female characters in any Marvel video game, basically ever. But it's fine. They're pretty good and they're pretty fun. So even if you don't like the characters, at least they're fun to play with. So I will say Disney's meddling, whatever meddling they had, and I'm sure they meddled with this game, it didn't screw up the final product. Firaxis was able to make a fun game with good gameplay. The characters are pretty good, and there's a lot of mechanics. As you're playing, you're unlocking ways to craft cards, ways to combine cards and upgrade cards, and you can make items and bring those in, and then you're getting other abilities, and now you can send people on missions, and now you can train, and you can get buffs. So there's a lot of mechanics going on and plenty of stuff to keep you busy. But basically the gameplay loop is something like hang out with the superheroes, get a little bit of story, play a combat mission, hang out with the superheroes. And you're just kind of like looping that over and over and over again. It's a good loop. I think it's pretty fun. But yeah, that's pretty much all you're doing in the game. Now, I know a lot of people were also kind of bashing the game for the DLC pass, and I totally get that. But as far as DLC passes go, I don't think it's even necessary. I think if you get this game, and I'm recommending it as a buy, just skip the DLC pass. There's no point in getting it. Most of the content's not even out yet, which doesn't make sense to me. I guess because if they waited for the content to come out, this game wouldn't come out till next year, maybe like March. But since most of the 4 superheroes that the past adds aren't available to play, there's literally no reason to buy it. And I don't think you're going to miss it. I think there's enough characters to play with. There's plenty of content, so I don't feel like there's some like big dearth of content here that you need to buy it unless you just have more money than sense. But it's totally skippable, and I don't think you need it. I think the game is a satisfying good time. I think you do have to meet it halfway, and you do have to kind of get into the making friends almost Sims aspect, as you can like decorate your room. It's goofy, and I really wasn't that into it, but I just kind of like, all right, let me just go with it. And the game kind of turned me around. It kind of turned me around to it, and I'm kind of getting into its cycle. I'm sure they'll add more DLC, and they're going to add more characters and more missions and goofy stuff like that. I'm probably going to skip all that. I think a sequel would be great for this. I'm actually really hyped for a sequel for this. I want to see a new game. I want to see what else they can do. Using the Midnight Suns was kind of a weird pick. I'm really surprised it's just not Avengers. I'm thinking part of why they did that is Firaxis was just really sick of making sci-fi stuff and modern day stuff with the XCOM's games. So they just tried to pick something a little bit more fantasy just so they could make like magic stuff they never did before, just so they don't go crazy putting this game together. Which I get, but I totally want a sequel. I would be fine if they ditched the Midnight Suns and the Hunter character. I just kind of want to create my own superhero from scratch. So hopefully they do that. But it's a really good game. The voice acting is fantastic, and a lot of the voice actors you've probably heard if you've been playing some of the other Marvel stuff, some of the other Marvel video games. Spider-Man is literally the same Spider-Man from the really good PS4 game that came out recently. So the voice acting is really spot on. The writing is as good as the real Marvel stuff is, maybe even some better than some of the lousier stuff. And it's a better BioWare game than BioWare has been able to put together. Card game is solid. It makes me wonder how old this game is when they were developing it. Because if you're taking influence from Mass Effect, Dragon Age, and Hearthstone, I mean, what is this game, 10 years old? I don't know. It's weird. It works despite itself. I'm glad it's not an XCOM grid kind of moving game. The grid is the movement is totally freeform, so you can just go wherever you want and knock people around. Punch people through walls, knock them into electric boxes, knock them into bombs, or knock them into each other and do damage. And that's very superhero. That's very fun. It really works for this. So I'm glad Firaxis is doing something else than just reskinning XCOM. This is really good. So I will give it a 5 out of 5. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 despite myself. Really, the only thing I don't like about this game is just that it's $60. It feels a little expensive, but maybe that's just because I'm a cheap bastard and I kind of prefer paying like $40. Content-wise, everything's really good. The quality of the game is good and it's fun. My only gripe is really just the price, but hey, that's not really their fault. That's just how modern games are. So $60, fair price. The $100 season pass is a big skip. And if you can get it less for that, for like $40, this is an amazing game. I actually think it's the best game of the year. So it came out at the very, very last second, total squeaker of a release. But this is my 2022 game of the year. So I don't know, guys. Are you playing this game? Do you like it? Are you mad that this isn't XCOM 3? Are you a BioWare fan? And are you just happy that somebody besides BioWare has made a good RPG in their style? And I'm fine with that. Hey, you know what? If BioWare sucks, so if Firaxis is going to pick up that torch, I'm down with it. All right, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.